We begin today the Gemara on Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph, the second line from the top of the Yamud, where it says Amar Rava. Got it? Yeah, very good. Okay, so the Gemara here is in the middle of the sugya, the Machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, when the Torah says that you're chayiv for making a fire and then allowing the fire to spread and burn someone else's property. What's the chiyuv of this mazik of eish? As I explained yesterday, the discussion over here we see from the Gemara. The discussion specifically is when the fire spreads, not the actual spot where you mamish lit the fire. Over there, everybody agrees that you mamish did it directly. So the chiyuv of that is for the direct act that you did. But when the fire spreads from where you lit it and you chayiv for that as well, what's the chiyuv? Rabbi Yochanan says mishum chitzov. It's just like throwing an arrow that you throw it here and it flies somewhere else. It's a mamish considered to be your koyach, your action. And Reish Lakish says no, mishum memaynai. The fire that spreads, fire has no mamoshes, so therefore it's not your arrow. Again, I'm sorry, Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says that the fire has no mamoshes, and therefore you could only be chayiv for the fact that it's like your arrow. But Reish Lakish on the other hand says no, it's like your money. Just like you have if you own a share or you dig a boir and it goes and it damages, if you light a fire and it spreads and it goes out and damages, you chayiv the same thing because it's your money that you should have protected that went out and burnt and damaged. That's the machlokes. So let's continue inside. Omar Rava, so Rava says, Kashleil Abaye. Abaye had a question on this. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that says that the fire that a person lights and it spreads, why you chayiv? Because it's like you threw an arrow. If so, Tamun be'eish to paterachmana. When it comes to a fire, we learned earlier in the Masechta that if it burns something which was hidden, let's say it burns a godish, a big pile of grain, and inside there was something hidden over there, so the Torah says you pater for that. But the question is, when is that? When is the Torah patering you for Tamun? If you're chayiv, when the fire spreads and burns, it's because it's like you threw an arrow, so that means it's just like an Adam that was mazik by throwing an arrow. There's no patur for Tamun for that. Rashi brings that when a person himself is mazik, if a person himself throws an arrow and it harms someone or it kills someone, you learn from the pasuk petza tachas potza that you chayiv whether what you damaged is a shoygig, and even if what you damaged is a oinus, because what damaged was hidden, you didn't even see it at all, but you chayiv for that as well. So over here, if we're going to say that the fire is like an arrow that you threw, so there should be no difference if what it damaged or what it burned is open or it was covered. So when does Rabbi Yochanan say that there's this distinction? And Abaye himself answered his own question. The case would be that a fire broke out in a person's courtyard, and then when the fire broke out, there was a wall which would have stopped the fire from spreading. And then afterwards, this wall of this chotzer fell down. And what caused this wall to fall down was not as a result of the fire. If it was a result of the fire itself that burnt this wall through and then it fell down, so then that's all still considered to be a direct cause by your fire. No, but the wall fell down because of something else. And then, the fire spread into someone else's property and it burnt there in his property. In this case, Rabbi Yochanan will be maideh that the chiyuv for the fire that damaged on someone else's property is not because it's like your arrow. Over here, the fact that you allowed the fire to spread after the wall fell down, even Rabbi Yochanan will say that it's not your arrow. The hasam kol lechitzav. Over here, your arrow had a wall that stops it. And the fact that afterwards the wall fell down, it can't be considered to be an arrow anymore. So over here, if the fire goes out and damages, you're not going to be chayiv for tamun, for something that's concealed, because it's not your arrow. But the Gemara right away asks him this: if that's the case, hihachi le'inyin goli nami. If, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the only chiyuv of allowing a fire to spread is that it's your arrow that's flying and going there, and over here, because the wall was up before, and this wall blocks the arrow, so it's not considered to be your arrow anymore, so you shouldn't be chayiv for the fire that spread beyond that place where the wall was, whether it's something which is concealed or even something which is exposed. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's the wall, when the fire was lit, the wall was there, so it's not your arrow. So therefore the Gemara now concludes and says as follows. The Gemara changes the understanding of the machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Ella, says the Gemara, Laman de Islay Mishum Chitzov. The opinion of Yochanan that says that you chayiv when you make a fire and it spreads, that it's like your arrow that's going there, He also agrees that in a case where it cannot be considered to be an arrow, you still will be chayev for allowing the fire to spread, because the fire is your money, it's your possession that you're allowing it to spread and damage. So over here as well, in the case where there was a wall up and the wall fell down and now the fire spread, you can't be chayev for the fact that it's your arrow. But Rabbi Yochanan will agree that you'll be chayev for the fact that it's your fire, your money that's spreading and damaging someone else's property. Now the Gemara adds, when are you going to be responsible for the fact that this wall fell? If the wall fell in the middle of a fire burning, so are you responsible for that? So the Gemara says, yeah, depends. If this wall that fell when there was this fire, you had the ability to put back up this wall to block the fire from spreading, and you didn't, then you're going to be chayev for this. The Hassam, because if that's the case, so then it's just like when you have an ox. It's like you own an ox. The literal translation is, and you didn't smack it in its face. Meaning if you own an ox and you don't put it inside a barn and lock it behind the door and it goes out and it damages, so then you're responsible for that. So over here as well, when the fire is spreading and there was a wall there, and then the wall fell. True, the wall did not fall because of the fire, the wall just fell. But if you have an opportunity to put back up the wall and you don't, so then you'll be chayev for that. And over here you'll be chayev because it's your money. It's just like your share goes out and damages, your fire goes out and damages, you're chayev for that. So now, based on this, the Gemara asks, if the opinion of Yochanan that says that you chayev when a fire spreads because it's your arrow, he also says that you chayev when it's your money. So if so, my benayu. What is the difference between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish? So over here, there's a big discussion in the Rishonim, Rashi, Tosfos. What exactly is the Gemara's question? The nafkamina that the Gemara said before between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish could still apply, because in a case where you don't own the fire, it's not your fire. So according to Reish Lakish, you're going to be potter. You only potter like if it's your ox, or the Torah says if you dig a bar, it's considered to be your bar, or if the fire is yours. If you remember, we had before the whole discussion in the Gemara based on the Mishnah. If you have a dog that took somebody else's fire, took somebody else's coal and went and damaged with it. So according to the Reish Lakish, the Gemara had a whole discussion. How could you be chayev for that? It's not your fire. So if it spreads, it's not your moment that's damaging. So that nafkamina between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish still remains. Because the chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan is, it doesn't have to be your fire. If you're the one that lights it and then it spreads, so then you're going to be chayev because it's a chetz. It's like an arrow that you threw. Or if your dog is taking this fire, so then it's like your dog which is kicking pebbles and it causes it to spread. So you'll be chayev for that. So that nafkamina still stays. So why is the Gemara over here asking the question, my beinayu? So Rashi answers that the pshat over here is because the lashon of Rabbi Yochanan is ishoy. When the Gemara discusses this whole machlokes, ishoy mishum chitzav or ishoy mishum emayna. The word ishoy means if it is your fire. You are the owner of the fire. Right? So when you are the owner of the fire, so over here, there's no nafkamina between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Because if you own the fire, they both agree that you're chayev because it's your money. And Rabbi Yochanan just adds another detail. You're also chayev because it's like you threw this arrow directly. So what would be the nafkamina between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish? Okay, one more point that Rashi over here points out. If we wouldn't say the point that the Gemara said before that regarding the wall that fell, so then you could say that the nafkamina is regarding that case where there was a wall and then that wall fell down. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that says that when the wall falls, so it can't be your chetz anymore, because when you lit the fire, the wall was there. So now later when the fire continues and going, it's not your arrow anymore. So then that would be the nafkamina. When there was a wall up there when you lit the fire. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the only chiyuv would be the fact that it's your arrow, in such a case when there was a wall when you lit the fire, you would be pater. According to Reish Lakish, since the chiyuv is that it's your money, the fact that there was a wall up there when you lit the fire, so you still be chayiv. It's still your money that caused this damage. But before, we already explained that in such a case, there's no nafkamina, because Rabbi Yochanan holds that it's mishum and maynai as well. So either way, you're going to be chayiv. So therefore, the Gemara is asking, what is the nafkamina? Okay, there's more discussion about this in the Rishonim, because there's many nafkaminas you could say here, but the Gemara over here brings another nafkamina. Says the Gemara, Ike benayu, the difference between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is as follows. L'chayvoi ba'arba dvarim. When you damage with your fire and you hurt another human being, are you going to be chayev in 4 things? What are the 4 things? Nezek, tsar, ripoy, and sheves. Usually, when you damage another person, so you chayav actually to pay 5 things. Nezek, tsar, ripu, sheves, and baishas. That's to pay for the damage, for the pain he had, for the doctor bills, for the fact that he couldn't work, and for the embarrassment. Over here, the Gemara only says 4 out of the 5. It skips baishas. And the point over here is, according to Reish Lakish, when the fire damages, it's like your ox that damaged. When your ox damages, you're not chayav all these 4 things. That's only by a adam, which is mazik. You only chayav for the actual damage. But if it's considered to be mamish like your arrow, so then it's you're chayav like you yourself damaged in these things. But Rashi says not for baishes, because we'll learn later in the Masechta, when it comes to baishes, you only chayav for embarrassing another person when you did it directly in a oifen that you had kavana to embarrass him. So therefore over here, you're not going to be chayav on the 5th thing, which is you usually brought, which is the baishes. But this is the nafkamina. The fact that Rabbi Yechanan adds the inyan of Isha Mishum Chitzav is to say that you're going to be chayav mamish like you yourself damaged him, you're chayav and all these things. There are other Rishonim, but also to add to this, it's a machlekes Rishonim about this, that would you be chayiv also misa? If a person kills someone by lighting a fire in one place, and the fire spread somewhere else, and it killed another person, would you be chayiv misa for that? Do I consider it to be mamish like an arrow to the degree that you're mamish chayiv misa for this? Or no? The Gemara doesn't bring that nafkamina b'feidish here. The Gemara only says l'chayiv arbot dvarim. So maybe l'gabi that, you're not going to be chayiv misa. That's a machlekes Rishonim. Okay, let's go weiter. The case that it said in the Mishnah, ala charara mishalom chulu. So again, the case of the Mishnah was that a person's dog went and took a biscuit together with a coal, and it ate the biscuit, and the coal, it dropped into a godish, into a pile of grain, and it burnt the godish. So the Mishnah said, for the biscuit it ate, you chayav nezek shalem, and for the godish that it burned, you chayav chatzi nezek. Okay, so the Gemara is going to go through a few details of the chiyuv over here. It says the Gemara man chayiv. So who is the one that's chayiv over here for the damage? Baal Kelev. It's the owner of the dog that's chayiv over here for this damage. Fragt the Gemara, but why is it only the owner of the dog that's chayiv for this? V'lechayiv nami Baal Gacheles. But why should the owner of the coal that the dog took this coal, why shouldn't he be chayiv for this? He left his coal in a place that's exposed for a dog to go and take it. So there's also a negligence on his part. So he should be chayiv as well. So Rashi explains, in the Mishnah it said that for the godish that you burned, you only chayiv chatzi nezek. So the other half should be paid by the bala gecheles. You're only chayiv chatzi nezek. The Gemara already explained before why you only chayiv chatzi nezek, different shatim in this, but the other half, the bala gecheles should pay for this. And says the Gemara, we have to say, what is the case over here? The coal was in a place that was protected. So the Bala Gechalas was not negligent. He didn't leave it out in an open place for a dog to come and take. But if so, if this coal was in a place where it was guarded, so then my boy Kelev Hassam. How does the dog get there? Why should the Bala Kelev even be chayav for this? This is something that the dog did that is... we don't. How is it possible for the dog to get there if it's protected? Says the Gemara, b'shechata. It was in a place, there was a door in a courtyard that was blocking the dog, but the dog dug under and went in and took this kacheles. Says the Gemara, what do I understand from this? What this tells me is that stam dalsais, that when you have a regular door, it's to be expected that a dog can go and dig under it and go take something from there. Okay, so over here, that's what's happening, right? We're being mechayev, the Bala Kelev, for not protecting his dog to go and dig under this door and take this kacheles. Right, so the Mefarshim explain, on the other hand, taste this over here, the Mefarshim explain that on the other hand, though, the Bala Gacheles is not going to be chayev, even though you may argue and say, doesn't he know that a dog could go and dig under his door and come and take his Gacheles? Because at Kedei Kach, Chacham weren't mechayev him. He has to put up a door that blocks the dog from coming. Who's the one that has to guard the dog to not do such a wild thing and go and dig under the door? Not that's not the Bala Gacheles. The owner of the dog has to be the one that has to protect from that. Okay, so therefore over here, the raya, the ikar raya of the Gemara is that this is the reason why the Bala Kelev is chayav to pay nezek shalim. If when the dog digs under the door and takes this kacheles and damages, it's something that's considered to be an unusual, a wild behavior for the dog, so then the Bala Kelev would only be chayav to pay as any case where you damage in an unusual manner, chatzi nezek. Over here it says that when he ate the charara that he went in and took, the biscuit, he's chayav to pay nezek shalim. So it must be that the dog went and dug under, is something that is normal for a dog to do, and therefore you chayav nezek shalim. Now the Gemara asks another question: the ochla heicha. Where did the dog eat this biscuit that it ate? If you're going to say that the dog took this charara and it went, right now the Gemara understands that this gadish, this pile of grain, is owned by somebody else. It went to someone else's property, and there by the gadish the alma, over there by someone else's pile of grain, that's where it ate this charara. Not in the rishos of the bala charara, where he took the biscuit. Went from one property to another. If so, why should it be chayav for this? The Torah says you only chayav for the hezek of shein. When he ate over here this biscuit, only if he ate it in that person's property, bizdei acher. Over here though, if it took it from one place and it went to a different property, you shouldn't be chayav for that. So the Gemara says, Lo yitzriche, the case over here is the achla begadish, the bal charara. He ate it by the gadish of the bal charara, meaning that the pile of grain and the bal charara, the one that owns the biscuit where the dog took it, is all the same person. So therefore he's chayav for eating it right there, and that's the hezek of shein, in the property of the nizik. Okay, but the Gemara says on this, based on this now, tifshet, we can resolve the following ibaya that we had about this. What was the ibaya? The pi pada, the mouth of a cow that walked into someone's property and is eating from his produce. And that produce is in his mouth when he eats it. So the mouth of the pada, kechotzer hanizik dami, has the halacha of the chotzer of the nizik, the property of the nizik, and you're going to be chayav for what it eats there. In other words, even though you can argue and say, and we'll see here how the Gemara is going to explain this, when a cow walks into someone's property and eats from the produce there, you are in the chutzner of the nizik, you're there in his property and it's eating over there. But once the food enters into his mouth is not the chutzner of the nizik anymore. His mouth, it belongs to the mazik. That's the mazik's domain. So when it eats it in his mouth, so why should it be chayav for what it eats? It's not bizdei acher. What I'm eating is not in your property, it's in my property because it's in the mouth of the pada. But over here we're saying that when the dog eats the biscuit, so you're chayav for this. Why? Even though it's in the mouth of the dog, nevertheless it's considered to be in the chatzar of the nizik. If you're going to say that once it's inside the mouth of the animal, so now the animal belongs to the mazik, so now it's in his domain, so lei malei, so then the mazik could say to the nizik, my boy riftoch b'pumid de kalboy. What's your bread doing in the mouth of my dog? Okay, so the Gemara doesn't literally mean this as that he's arguing and saying, what is it doing? Well, your dog went and took it and put it in his mouth. But what the Gemara is saying is, if the Torah says, ubir b'zdei acher, that you only chayev if the damage is caused in the property of the nizik, if once it's in his mouth and he's eating it in his mouth, so then it's not anymore b'zdei acher. It's inside his mouth. Okay, now it's a little bit hard to understand what the Gemara is saying here. The Rishonim all address this. That what do you mean? I mean, obviously, when you eat something, it goes into his mouth. Why should it be potter for this? Okay, but let's just see first a little bit the continuation of the Gemara, and I'll tell you the pshat that it says in the Rishonim here. The Shaila was asked about this. Pi pada, the mouth of this cow that's eating in someone else's property. Kechatzer anizik dami. Is this considered to be still like the damage is happening in the domain of the nizik and yechaya for this? Or no, once it's in his mouth, so now inside his mouth is the domain of the mazik, so you'll be potter for this. Now, so the Gemara asks right away on this shaila, how could you even ask such a shaila? If you're going to say that what's inside the mouth of the cow is considered to be the domain of the mazik, so shein, the chayev rachmane, this hezek of when an animal eats with its teeth, that the Torah says you chayev to pay for this, how would you ever be chayev? Every time it eats with its teeth, it's always inside his mouth. So it's always in the mouth of the mazik. So that the Gemara says that's not a question. Amar Rav Mari berei de Rav Kahana. Rav Mari berei de Rav Kahana answers, Kagoin, the case that you would be chayiv for the hezek of shein would not be when it actually ate in its mouth. It would be in a different case, which is a toilda of shein. Kagoin shen is chakaka bekaisel hanaasa. What's the concept of shein when an animal does damage in a way where it has hana, derives pleasure from what it's doing? So there could be another kind of damage, which is when the animal rubs its body on a wall for its hana, and it damages the wall with that. And v'tinfa, or another case, v'tinfa peres lanasa. It rolled on fruits and it made the fruits dirty, and it was doing it for its pleasure. So in such a case, the damage that it caused did not enter into the mouth of the cow or the animal. So you can't argue that it's in my animal's mouth. It's in my chotzer. Over here, it's causing with its body a damage, and the damage does not go into its mouth. That would be the time when the Torah would be mechayev. But the Gemara asks on this, Maskeflo Mazutra asks, but that's not what the pasuk is talking about, because v'habeina kashiyevayer hagolol at tumay. When the Torah says the hezek of shein, it doesn't say shein clearly in the Torah. It never says teeth in the Torah, but it does say v'shilach has beiroi ubir b'zdei acher. What is ubir b'zdei acher? So we learned before in the Masechta and Daf Gimel. The Gemara there says ubir means yevayer hagolol, that you destroy. At tumay, it becomes golol. It becomes the golol of the behemoth, meaning that you eat it and destroy it completely. And veleke, the examples that you're giving me, that you would be chayav for the tilde of shein, is not a case where you're destroying completely what over there. It's rubbing itself against the wall and it's causing damage to the wall. It caused damage to the fruit. It doesn't destroy it completely. So therefore Ravina says, I can show you where you're chayiv for the hezek of shein and you are destroying it completely, even without the animal eating and chewing it in its mouth. The shaft salmi, one case would be if there was a wall that had a beautiful drawing, art drawing on it, and the animal came and it went and it rubbed itself against the wall and it erased the whole entire drawing. So you erased it, you destroyed it completely. That would be one case. And the animal did it for its pleasure. Ravashi says another case, the pasi pesui, that if there was fruits that the animal rolled on and it made the fruits dirty and it went into cement and into dirt to such an extent that it's impossible to take it out. It got completely destroyed. Or another Pshat Rashi says that the animal rolled in it and it poured out some kind of liquid that completely destroys the fruits that it rolled on. So in such a case, that would be the case of shein that the Torah talks about. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Rishonim over here say that it's very hard to learn this Gemara in the literal sense, that an animal that walks into someone else's property and goes and takes fruits and eats it, that the Gemara has a svara that you should be potter because the Mazik says that it's in the mouth of my animal. So therefore, what is your fruits doing in the mouth of my animal? So there's different pshatim in the Rishonim how to learn this Gemara. One of the pshatim that it says in the Rishonim, and some say that this is how Rashi learns the Gemara is, we're talking over here specifically about a case where the animal did not take the fruits from the place where the Chatzar HaNizik. It took the fruits from Rishus HaRabim, from a place that's outside the Rishus HaNizik. And then it came into the Rishus HaNizik, and there in the Rishus HaNizik it ate it. So even though it's eating it in the Rishus of the Nizik, but it's in the mouth of the Para. It already picked up this fruit somewhere else in the Rishus HaRabim. And then it's eating it in the Rishus HaNizik. That's the pshat that the Rishonim explain. And according to this, the Rishonim say that in the Mishnah that the Gemara began with, which is the story of the dog taking the charara, it's not talking about a dog that went into someone's private property and took a biscuit and ate the biscuit over there in his property. Rather, what it's talking about over there is, back in those days, people didn't have their own ovens necessarily. So if a person wanted to bake bread, a biscuit, what did he do? He went to the baker of the town and he brought his biscuit over there, and it was baked by the oven of the baker of the town. So what it's saying over here is the dog went to this bakery and it picked up the biscuit that belonged to a private individual. And then the dog went with this biscuit to that person's property where he also owns a godish. He also owns a pile of grain. And over there it ate the biscuit. And that's where the shaila is going to be. Do I say because he ate it in his property, you'll be chayiv for it? Or do I say, no, he already picked it up somewhere else, which was not in the Rishus of the Nizik. And even though now he entered into the Rishus of the Nizik, but it's in his mouth. Once it's in his mouth, so the Mazik could say, it's in my cow's mouth already, or in my dog's mouth before it came into this Rishus, so therefore you would be potter. That's how many Rishonim learned this Gemara. There's other pshatim as well. Okay, another detail according to this. So here when the Gemara asks the question, if so, when the Torah was mechayiv shein, how would you be chayiv? Really the whole question of the Gemara doesn't begin b'chlal. Because the whole discussion of the Gemara over here is when it picked up the food in the Rishus HaRabim. In a case where it picked up the food in the private domain of the Nizik, for sure you'd be chayav. There's no question about that. So the Rishonim actually say that the one that asked this question, the Gemara asks, Heichi Mishkachas, he misunderstood the whole Ibaya. And really, according to the true understanding of this Ibaya, this question is not a question, Michal. The Gemara gives an answer to it, but really, this is not the real Ibaya of the Gemara. Okay, either way, so the shaila over here is, once something is in the mouth of the cow and it came in from before, should you say that the mazik could say that it's in his mouth and therefore you're going to be potter even when it goes into his rishus and eats it? So the Gemara brings rayas to this from a few places. This concept could come up even regarding other kinds of azekis. So the Gemara says, Tashama, there's a Mishnah that says, Shisa bayas a kelef, that if a person goes and incites a dog to go and then bite someone, or Shisa bayas a nochash, someone went and incited a snake to go and bite someone. So potter. So the Mishnah there says you're going to be potter. Now the Mishnah there uses a singular term. There's two people here. There's the person that incited, and then there's the person that owns the dog or owns the snake. So when it says potter, what does this mean? Man potter, who's the one that's potter? Mishase. Potter, the one that incited the dog or the snake. He's the one that's potter. And the reason he's potter for this, Mishase potter, because that's what's called a grama. You didn't directly damage or hurt the person. You just you incited a snake or a dog to go and damage. Grama ben izakin is potter. But v'chayev bal kelev. But it would seem from that Mishnah that the bal kelev, the owner of the dog or the owner of the snake that allowed his dog or snake to be there, would be chayev. But the question is, why should he be chayev? If we're going to say before regarding the hezek of shein, that if it picked up what it's eating somewhere else, even though now it goes into the shus nizik, once it's in his mouth is already considered to be the rishus of the mazik. So over here as well, this dog that bit someone after it was incited, lay malay, so the owner of the dog should say, my boy yodach b'pumid the kalboy. What's your hand doing in the mouth of my dog? My dog, it's not my fault that your hand is in the mouth of my dog. That's because someone else incited and therefore your hand ends up in the mouth of my dog. But in the mouth of my dog, your hand doesn't belong to be there. I'm not responsible for this, that my dog bit you. Right? Again, if no one incited and this person's dog was wild and went and bit, okay. But if someone else went and incited and now the dog went and bit, so in the mouth of my dog, for that I should be potter. So the Gemara says, Eime potter. So one pshat is, Eime potter af mishase. When it says in the Mishnah potter, even though it uses a singular term, but it means everybody's potter. Both the person that incited and the dog that bit is also potter. The owner of the dog is also potter. Or another pshat over here is that the hand of the person that was damaged by this dog, that was hurt by the dog, was not inside the mouth of the dog. The afke lenive visarte. The dog has these teeth in the front that are long, that come out, and the dog stuck its teeth out, and it scratched the person's hand, or it bit the person's hand without the person's hand going inside the mouth of the dog. So for that, the Bava Kama will be chayiv, because you can't say that your hand was stuck inside the mouth of my dog. Tashama, the Gemara brings that ayah over there also from the Mishnah. It says there, Hishich boi esanochash. If a person took the hand, someone's hand, and he brought a snake close to a person's hand, and the snake bit this person. So Rabbi Yehuda says, what happens if this person was bit by the snake and the person died from the venom of the snake? So Rabbi Yehuda says that you're going to be chayev for bringing the snake to the person's hand and allowing the snake to bite this person. Chachamim say that you're going to be potter. The machlokes of Rabbi Yehuda and the Chacham over here is regarding chiv misa. Are you going to be chayiv misa? Is this considered mamish, like you directly murdered a person by bringing a snake to a person's hand, or not? So what's the explanation of their machlokes? Yaakov explained as follows: when you look deeper into this, you'll see the pshat is as follows. According to Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, the venom of a snake is right between his teeth, that's where it is. So when you bring the snake to the person's hand and it bites the person, so in such a case, lefichach machish b'sayif, the person that brought the snake to the person's hand to bite him, so he's chayiv misa as a murderer, which the chayiv misa for a murderer is sayif, that he's killed with a sword. But v'nochash potter. But the snake is going to be potter, meaning the snake, usually a snake that kills a person, is what do you do with a snake? Skila. Just like by a shor haniskal, a shor that kills a person, you have to stone to death the shor, and the nachash also should be stoned to death, but not over here, not in this case, when the person takes the nachash and puts the person's hand in it. So the nachash itself does not have to be stoned to death. So the point that the Gemara is saying is, just like if you take a knife and you use a knife to cut a person, to murder a person directly, so too when you take a snake is no less than a knife. Why not? Because the snake has the venom right there. Just like the knife itself is sharp, and it kills a person, so too the snake itself, the venom is in its teeth, and it's mamish directly killing the person. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says, you're going to be chayiv misa for that. That's Rabbi Yehuda. But l'divrei chachamim, according to the chachamim, why is the person that put the snake in the person's by the person's hand and it bit the person? Why are you potter for this? Because eres nachash me'atzmai meki. The venom of the snake is not right there in its teeth. It's the snake itself that has to produce that venom and decide itself to produce that venom to go and bite the person and kill him. So lefichach nachash b'skila. It's the snake that produced that venom that it is going to be chayiv skila, like any animal that kills a person. But umakish potter, the person that brought the snake to this person's hand and it bit him, he's going to be potter because that's not directly mamish like taking a knife. Over there, the snake that has to produce its own venom. So therefore, it'll be potter for this. But the Gemara now asks on this regarding the opinion of the Chachamim. What did the Chachamim say? That the snake itself is going to be chayiv skila because it produced its venom and killed this person. But ve'i amrit, if you're going to say pi pada inside the mouth of the cow, kechotzer hamazik dami. The status of inside the mouth of a cow is that this is the domain of the mazik. So lei malei. So why can't the owner of this snake say, "My boy yodach bepume de chivoi"? What is your hand doing inside the mouth of my snake? Inside the mouth of the snake is in the rishus of the mazik, and therefore over here the din of shayr haniskal should not apply. The din of shayr haniskal only applies, you would think, when an ox goes and kills someone not in the rishus of the mazik. If I walk into a person's private property and over there I'm attacked by his dog, I'm attacked by his ox, and it kills the person, so in such a case you potter because you came into my rishus. So over here, inside the mouth of the snake, if that has a din like the rishus of the mazik, so then there should be no din of shayr haniskal over here. So the Gemara answers, le'inyin ketala lo yamrinon. When it comes to the halacha of ketala, when a ox, or in this case a snake, killed somebody, over here the petur of being in the rishus of the mazik does not apply. If somebody's ox kills someone, even if it wasn't his domain of the mazik, he's still going to be chayiv. Where do we see this? The Tanya we learned in the Braisa. Hanichnas l'chotzer ba'al abayis. A person enters into the private home of a person, shaloi b'rishus, without any permission. V'nakchay shayrish al ba'al abayis, and the ox of this homeowner came out and gored him and damaged him and killed him. Umeis, and the person died. So what's the halacha? Hashayr b'skila. The shayr has to be stoned to death. Ubailam peturim min hakaifer, and the owner will be potter from paying the kaifer, which is the usual payment that you pay when the shayr kills someone. So bailam peturim min hakaifer, the owner that the Braiser says is potter from kaifer, my time. What's the reason for this? The amalei b'rishusi my bias. Because he could tell the person, you came into my private domain, and my ox killed you. Why did you come into my private domain? So therefore that payment doesn't apply. But if so, shoyrei nami, the ox as well that Gordon killed this person, le malei my boy is birishusi. Why do we say that we have to stone to death this shayr if you came into my private domain? Hello, the answer is, this Bryce is telling us, le'inyin kitala lo yamdinan. An ox that gores and kills another human being, or in this case the snake that with its venom killed a person, even though it happened when you came into the mouth of the snake, it doesn't matter. The snake still has to be killed, because regarding the din of shayr haniskal, even if you're in the private domain of the mazik, you're still chayav for this. The Gemara here brings a different subject regarding the mazik of Shein. Hana izi de beit tarbu. There were these goats that belonged to individuals by the name of tarbu that were damaging the property of Rav Yosef. Amalei Abaye, so Rav Yosef tells Abaye, Zil emaluhulu marayu. Go tell the owner of these goats, the litznino, that they should hide it, or they should protect it. They shouldn't come into my property. Amalei, so Abaye says to Rav Yosef, Amayezel, why should I go and tell them this? If I'm going to go and tell them that they should protect their goats, Amri li, they're going to answer me, Ligdar Magadei Bari. You go and put up a fence around your property. It's your responsibility to fence your property, that my goats should not come into your property. So over here as well, there's a machlokes rishonim about this. It's very hard to understand what the Gemara is saying. Why is Abaye saying that you have to put up a fence on your property? Every person has to put up a fence on his property? The goat, the owner of the goat has to protect his goats, that they shouldn't go into someone else's property. So some Rishonim say that Abaye didn't really mean this lahalacha. Abaye was just avoiding going to start up with these people, with these Beit Tarba. He didn't want to start up with them, so he didn't want to do the shlichus of Rav Yosef. But really, there's no such a thing that you're obligated to put up a fence. Another pshat that Rishonim say, and it seems from the Hemshech of the Gemara that this was a real halacha. Abaye was saying that when you live inside a city over there, the people that own goats or own animals have to be careful and protect their animals, that they should not guard their animals, they shouldn't go into someone else's property. But over here we're talking about out in a place where there's a lot of fields, an open area, and over there there's animals. Over there, outside the city, it is actually the obligation of the field owner to put up a fence around this place that animals shouldn't come in. That's the place where animals are. If you don't want the animals to come in, you're going to have to put up a gate around there. Okay, so now the Gemara asks them this, V'i Godar. So if you have to put up a fence, and you put up a fence around your property, Shein T'chayev Rachmana Heichin Mishkachas Lo. So then, how would you be chayev for Shein when the Torah says that you're chayev for this? So the answer is K'shachatra. You'll be chayev when the animal dug under and went inside and ate. Inami, or in another case, the Nofel Gudde Balelia, that the fence fell down by night and he didn't realize that the fence fell down. So in such a case, you're going to be chayev for this. Okay, and it has to be in a oifen that it's not a oinus, that the owner of the animal knew that the fence fell down. Okay, that's one halacha. Another halacha the Gemara says about Rav Yosef as well. Machris Rav Yosef v'iteime Rabbe. Rav Yosef announced, or others say Rabba announced as follows: the Salkan Leila, those people that go from Bavel up to Eretz Yisrael, or the Nachsan L'Sachto, those people that travel down from Bavel from Eretz Yisrael, that is down to Bavel. So he announced the following: Hana Izi the Shuke. These goats that are in the marketplace, the mafsidi, that cause damage to people there in the marketplace. So what are these goats doing there in the marketplace? So Rashi says we're talking there about a butcher that has goats or animals that he slaughters them for the meat. But until he slaughters them, these goats are around and they cause damage. So what happens? What's the halacha? When a goat eats in the Rishus HaRabim, really the owner is pater, because this is shame by Rishus HaRabim. But nevertheless, he says you should announce as follows: Masrina b'meraya, we warn the owner, Terei et Los Zimni, 2 or 3 times, that he should guard his goats. Itzayis, if he listens, it's good. So then he listens. But if he's not going to listen, then what we say to him is, Siv amesachta v'kabel zuzach. Sit on your place where the butcher sit, and you'll get money for these goats. What that means is we force the owner of these goats, this butcher, to slaughter these goats and sell the meat right away, even though the butcher may be holding on to these goats and he wants to slaughter them in the right time when the meat is needed or when the price of the meat is up. But if his goats are damaging and he got warned not to allow them to go and damage people, so then he's going to have to shecht his goats right away and sell them right away.